welcome to Brutal Planet Magazine.
Also known as Wednesday 13.
Welcome to Brutal Planet Magazine.
Welcome to Brutal Planet Magazine.
Welcome to the video. Welcome to Brutal Planet Magazine.
You're listening to Brutal Planet.
Hey, what's up, everybody? CJ Pierce here from Drowning Pool, and you're listening to Brutal Planet Media right here. Get yourself.
Hey, I'm Steve from Within the Ruins, and this is Brutal Planet.
Greetings, Brutal Planet. We are live today with Lee and Luke from the band Lowlives. Thank you, gentlemen, for taking the time today.
How's it going?
Really good, man.
Love it.
I just familiarized myself with the music, and I really love it, man. Have you ever heard of the band called The Flies?
No, great name though.
Yeah,
it's a good
they're one of those bands that they kind of were like post-grunge, but they had like that aesthetic, and they had like one really popular song, but I guess that some of the stuff you guys were doing reminded me a little bit of that. And then the one song, really the newest song, "You Don't Care," the riff reminded me a lot of like Smashing Pumpkins. So
It's a total Smashing Pumpkins rip-off.
I love it though.
The demo that I sent to Luke was titled Pumpkins AF.
Yeah, it doesn't sound contrived though, but you can hear the influence.
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
now, when I sent it originally, it was like, man, is this two Pumpkins? But I think we've made it our own now, for sure.
Yeah. Go ahead.
It definitely landed in the inbox. Smash Pumpkins is my favorite band. It landed in the inbox, and I was like, man, we might be too on the nose with this one, but it ended up getting the Lowlives paint job on it, and I think it kind of fell in okay. But yeah, we're now unapologetic.
Now we just we ripped it off, but it's fine.
I like that, the Lowlives paint job.
Yeah, it gets the
Nice
Lowlives paint job.
No, you can hear the influence, but it doesn't sound contrived. Like I said, it's for me, it's refreshing to hear riffs like that again, because I feel like, and I talk about this a lot, but not that I have anything against grid-based recording or Pro Tools or any of that stuff, but I feel like everyone's been so married to that method of production for the last several years that it's like everything's become very like almost too perfect,
Yeah, I think with the ethos of this band, like, obviously we do record in Pro Tools and stuff
Yeah.
like that. We're not a analog tape band, but that's probably the only place that I would consider us not to be an analog band. Part of the creation of the band is about that we don't use any tracks or anything. We're not using any kind of real electronics live, and when we write music, we're kind of we're trying to be as human as possible, right? Like, I think that music has moved forward with a kind of angle of it being perfect. A lot of things you just get your face ripped off sonically, right? And there's a lot of like electronics involved in that, and kind of perfection. And I think sometimes there's like some things where we prefer on record where it's not perfect. You know what I mean? Maybe examples of a vocal take where maybe Lee's voice cracked up in a like real cool spot, in that take, and it's kind of like we want to display that personality. Music made by humans. So I think we're definitely more of an analog band in a digital age.
Yes.
That's cool, man.
And we've tried
I
to
feel
run that live as well. Like, we don't use digital stuff. We don't want to use fake amps. Like, they sound great, all that kind of stuff, but just we want to remain
Cheaper.
like
It's
a real
cheaper
band.
to
If
take.
someone stands in the front row, they'll just be blasted with real shit hitting them in the face. That's what we want.
I love it, man. Real rock and roll.
Yeah, basically.
Yes. We're
So-
trying.
Tell me the origin story of the band, because you guys have been around since what, 2018?
Yeah, 2018 we started. We were all obviously in other bands. My old band broke up, Luke's old band ended, and then we were both two Brits that we both lived in LA at the time, so we kind of knew of each other, but we didn't really know each other properly. And then we were kind of talking on Instagram one day, and he was like, "Oh, how's the band doing?" And I said, "Oh, my band's done. How are you doing?" And you were just like, "Oh, I'm kind of done with music. Didn't So I had a couple of demos, sent him a couple of songs. I was like, well, actually, I'm kind of working on this right now. It's super grungy. It's like, you know, all the shit that we grew up loving mixed with like super heaven and stuff like that. Sent it to him and he was like, this is fucking cool. We should meet up. And we both, you know, we've both been around the block a lot. So we both knew that we could play. Like that wasn't a question. It was a wonder of like, are we going to get along? Can we hang out over a pint? So we just went to a bar, had a few drinks, fucking really got on really well. And then we were just like, let's see if we can write some songs. So every weekend I was driving down to Luke in Orange County and we were just writing songs. And they were just coming and coming and coming, super easy. And we worked together effortlessly. It was just like, we got along super well. Yeah. And then kept on going and going and going. And that was it really.
It was very innocent and organic, actually. Like, you know, there wasn't shall we sound like this kind of thing. I think we just both are kids of the same era. So naturally, like, we were kind of aligned in that, like similar tastes in music. So yeah, that kind of made it come around like a lot more organically. And then there was probably, actually, this started in 2016. Like we played our first show in 2017. So, you know, but basically, you know, from that, we'd nerd out on things, and both of us were nerding out over this Foo Fighters YouTube video of them playing Brixton Academy, which is a legendary venue in London, in 1995. And I think it was the first time that probably Dave had gone back to Brixton since, you know, Nirvana, and they sold it out headlining it, right? And this show is insane. And the energy that came from that show, we were just like, right, this is exactly what we need to carry in our music and in our live performances. Like, nobody's really just doing this anymore. Like, Dave's voice is like splitting from like how crazy he's going. Pat Smear's all over the place. Williams, like the whole drum riser's rocking, and it just, the energy from even watching the YouTube video is insane. So I can't imagine what it would have been like to actually be at that show. And we were just like, man, if we could make our shows like this and carry this energy and try and carry this energy, you know, on record, we're achieving something. So that's always been our target.
Love it. Dave Grohl is the fucking man. I just watched, he just released a song with Charlie Benante and Scott Ian of Anthrax. Have you heard it?
Yeah, I saw the videos of them recording it and stuff. It's really cool.
Yeah, I was like, I wonder who's gonna sing on this. And then he came in. I was like, and he's like doing like kind of growly vocals, like raspy vocals too. I was so impressed.
Yeah, he's a versatile musician. Man. He is.
He can do anything.
Did you ever hear that Robot record that he did?
Oh yeah, with all the death metal guys.
Yeah. So
the guy is just a maniac.
Yeah.
He is. That's a good description. Yeah, he's so versatile. It's ridiculous.
I was just watching Josh Freese on an interview with Josh Freese on Rick Beato the other day, and he was talking about Dave Grohl, just like how, and Josh Freese is, I mean, Jesus, like he's been in everything, and he's like, Dave Grohl's like the fucking man, like.
Yeah. I mean,
really cool. Seeing him talk about when he met Dave the first time at like, a gig, he was like, "Oh, you see that guy over there? He plays drums in this band called Scream. He's really fucking cool." Josh Freese is like, "Yeah, whatever, dude." And he was like, Vandals at the age of 17. And then the next time he saw him, he saw that guy and he was like, "Hey man, you know that guy Dave Grohl I pointed out? He's like, he's in Nirvana now." And Josh Freese is still like, "Yeah, they're okay." You watched such a good interview.
You watched the Rick Beato interview?
Yeah, the Rick Beato one. Yeah.
Oh yeah, I love that guy. He has the best channel.
Yeah, the Billy Corgan one is really good too.
Yeah, I even find myself watching producers. Go ahead, sir.
I was saying, Lee, you got to link me on these, man. I haven't seen these.
Yeah, it's really good. I think I sent you one before. It was the one with Novoselic and Kim from Soundgarden talking about records.
Okay, yeah.
That one's really cool.
Nice.
Yeah, he's fucking good, man. He gets some good guests on that show.
He does. He has some good conversations too. I just watched this one where he had this guy talking about the nature of, they were talking about long songs, but he was talking about the hypnotic nature of music and like shamanism and stuff, and how like once you get to a certain point, you can bring people into a trance state with music and stuff. And like, it was really interesting, but
trip out on it.
Yeah, tripping
yeah,
out.
yeah, it was really cool. It's like a cool concept to think about, but
Oh, nice. I have not seen that one.
yeah, he does a lot of great stuff. So what do you guys have an album coming out soon? It looks like you've just released a bunch of singles and an EP up until now. So this is really like your first full length?
Yeah, we had a full length ready to go at the beginning of the pandemic, and then the whole world fell to pieces. So we broke that record up into singles, like A sides and B sides. And we did, how many was it? 4, 5 A's and B's?
I think it was 5.
Five,
And then
yeah.
like some of those kind of overlapped onto the EP initially as well.
So yeah, we did EP was first thing, and then those songs we released. So it's weird now because even now that we've signed with Spine Farm, they go into our Dropbox, you know, to get the files that Luke's let out and stuff. And they're still like LP1, LP2. They're still really confused. But like, no, LP2 is actually really album 1, but we still class what we are just about to release. We class as our second record. Really, it's a bit confusing.
Externally, this is our first record.
Yes.
Internally, it's really our second record. I think so. There's a few people actually that reached out to us on socials that were like, you know, we figured you've put like an album's worth of material out, like, so we went ahead and created this playlist of what we think the album running order should be, which I really dig that kind of stuff when people get into it and they kind of like, you know, what's the real story behind why this band's been around for almost 7 years, 7 years, and hasn't released a record, right? And you know, I think breaking it up into singles was our way of avoiding becoming a casualty in the pandemic. So, you know, when folks kind of dig deep and they're like, okay, an EP, and then these songs came out and they kind of all sound like cohesive, and you know, so it's been cool to see that. And I definitely hope one day we're in a position to be able to just do like maybe a limited vinyl run of that as an album, and kind of put it in the running order that we wanted. So yeah, so maybe it's kind of like a lost album at the minute.
Yeah,
that's cool.
But strangely enough, the person that was like they made artwork and stuff for it. Like, I don't know who it is. It's like a fan. They made the full artwork, but the track listing was super close to what our track listing would have been.
Yeah, it was. Yeah.
It's really random. It was like, is it one of our band members that's put this out? Like, it's very strange.
They're just on the same wavelength.
Yeah.
Yes.
Are you guys going to use their art for the cover if you do that?
Don't know. We actually thought about that the other day.
Yeah.
We did an interview the other day and we kind of discussed that too. Maybe. We'll see. I need to go and look at it again.
Yeah, same.
So do you guys record all your own stuff and produce it?
So up to the point of demo, yeah, basically like the way we work is Lee writes a lot of riffs and music. And so the Dropbox is like, there's a folder that's just like brimming over with ideas. And then he'll usually kind of like lean into a couple of ideas that he's really feeling, and then he'll maybe track them up a bit cleaner, send them to me. I have this like little studio in my house. It's just a converted garage. And so then like, you know, I'll kind of look over stuff and figure out some bits. And then usually, so I'm in Arizona, I'm in Mesa, Arizona, and Lee's up in Crestline. So then usually he'll come out to me and we'll spend like, we just did it actually like 2 weeks ago. He came out, we chipped out another 4 demos. And then usually when we're at that point, you know, we've got like music is pretty done. Vocal melodies are pretty solid. Sometimes we've even got all the lyrics knocked out. So it's quite a collaborative process. And then usually what we do is we go in the studio with someone. Like, I don't have really the producer chops or the kind of engineering chops to like really make it sonically banging. You know, I'm primarily a drummer, so I've done all this stuff via kind of necessity, you know. And so basically, yeah, we did the first unofficial unreleased album with our mate Bo, who is a sick producer who lives in Temecula. He has done a lot of records, done everything from like the Bronx to Middle Class Rut.
Oh wow!
But he's in the band. Yeah, so good. He's in the band Sayerson,
Oh,
And
oh my
yeah,
God, I love Seosin too.
yeah, he's the guitarist and main songwriter in Seosin. So we've known Bo years, so we have a really great working relationship with Bo. And then this album, you know, we got reached out to by Adrian Bushby, and at first, I got to be honest with you, his manager emailed me, and I was a little bit skeptical. I'm like, this can't be Adrian Bushby's manager. Like, how does he know about us, right? Like, Adrian Bushby's won 2 Grammys. He's done a couple of Foo Fighters records. He's done a couple of Muse records, My Bloody Valentine, like a ton of artists that I'm just kind of like super into. And so, yeah, it ended up actually, it really was his manager. So we had a conversation with him. And he's just like, I heard your band on radio in the UK. And he's like, I really want to work with you guys. He's like, obviously, this is in the middle of a pandemic. So he's like, I don't know how feasible it is to get you guys over to the UK, or maybe I'll come there. And so once we realized that, like, okay, you know, could be a reality, he was super forthcoming, just knowing that at that point we weren't signed and we were kind of, everything was out of our own pockets. And paid for by our jobs, you know, at that point. So he did us a screaming deal. Was like, I just want to work with you, so I'll keep it as cheap as possible. So we ended up like basically booking in with him, renting a studio in Northern England for like just over 2 weeks. And we went over there in the middle of the pandemic, still whilst the country was kind of on lockdown. They had a quarantine in place rule. So we booked a residential studio and just had that as our quarantine in place. And we went there and we basically just got immersed in making this current record that's coming out now. So, you know, that was an experience and a half, and I'll let Lee chip in on that. But basically we came back, had it mixed by Bo. Bo is such an incredible mixer, and that kind of brought us to where we're at now. So usually production, like final production and mixing and all that stuff, you know, we're kind of doing that out house with people we trust. So
Sure.
And Bo is so good. He knows our sound, especially because we did Burn Forever. Our first song was recorded with him. Everything we've done has pretty much been with him. So next time it will be with him as well.
That's amazing. I'm a huge fan of Seosin. In fact, I think they're playing in like May or August, and my son wants to go see them. So
yeah, they're doing that like Hawthorne Heightsy emo tour thing, right?
Oh yeah, when we were young or whatever, or maybe it's just Hawthorne Heights. Yeah, that's a
no. There's actually, I keep seeing in the feed, he keeps posting that they've just locked in festivals. They're doing a lot of festivals. We're actually going to be on a couple of the same festivals together later in the year, which would be sick. Good hang. So yeah, but no, good group of lads. I've known them years. Like I used to live right near the bass player, and he's a very good dear friend of mine. We've played shows with Cess. In fact, was it second or third, Lee?
Second, I think.
Yeah, I think our second ever show as a band was with Seosin. So they've always looked after us. They're just good mates, you know.
Yeah.
That's super cool. That's a cool little connection. It's funny because I was going to ask you about the recording of the album, but you kind of answered my question before I even got to it.
Oh, Lee's probably got some more tea that he can throw in.
I've not got much really to add to that, to be honest. I mean, it was possibly the best recording experience we've all had, because we had no distractions at all. Because we couldn't go out, we weren't allowed to do anything. We just ordered all of our food in for the 2 weeks, got loads of beer. The only breaks we had was there was the European Football Cup was on, and England were doing real good. So that was the only breaks we had in the day. And our band is made up of me and Luke English, and then 2 Americans. And they were just like, I can't believe we're stopping doing stuff right now to go and watch football. Like, it's very fucking important. And then by the end of it, because England were doing so good, the 2 Americans were really into it as well. So it was a lot of fun, man. It was one of those things you just wake up and you're like, what are you going to do? You're just going to make music. So we were fully immersed in it. And it just, I think it made the record, it made it way better for us doing that. And I think for future recordings of this band, I think we're going to do the same thing. Just go and book a residential studio, not do anything else but that. No distractions, no driving to a fucking studio every day, no driving out to get food every day. Just immerse yourself in it. So.
I was actually reminded today. So our bass player did an interview for a bass magazine, and he'd forwarded the article to us, and I was just having a read through and having a look, and he mentioned this recording session and going to England in the bass article, and I was reminded, because I'd completely forgotten about this, that each day we'd get a phone call from the government, from some COVID unit that would want to know where we were, like, you know, like the postcode we were in. They'd want to know if we'd had any symptoms or feeling sick, if we'd left the property that we were staying at. Like, it was, I totally forgot that whole
I forgot
portion of
about
it,
that.
because we had to go out, like, basically when you entered the country, you had to buy these, like, before you even fly, in order to get a plane ticket, you had to buy this special COVID test kit, which had 2 tests for each person in. Then you'd put like the confirmation number in the website, and then they'd grant you entry, right? And so, like, you know, it was like I think it was like a day 2 COVID test, and the only reason you were allowed to leave the property was to go to the mailbox to put it in. And then there was I think a day 8 COVID test, and if both of those tests came back negative, then you were allowed to leave the property. So it was quite like, you know, when I think back about that, it's like, it's pretty like movie script. Like, it's the kind of thing you'd see in like 28 Days Later, or like some weird movie, post-apocalyptic movie. So yeah, it's a very unique recording session that hopefully we won't ever have to experience again.
They used
Yeah.
to. We had the problem is they couldn't get a hold of us because none of our phones, all of our phones are American. They couldn't call our phones properly. And I remember they would come round to your house to check that you were there too. Like the COVID police would come round, and we were like, are they coming to the studio? And every day we're like, I've got loads of missed calls. Have they come to the door? It was really like, it was, man, we spent so much money on that shit too, all the testing and everything. But yeah, the whole recording process was, because we did it all out of our own pocket. Luke sold his fucking car.
Oh wow.
Yeah, it was a funny time.
That's really cool though, that you guys kind of financed it yourselves and stuff. I mean, it's obviously a lot more common these days. I talk to so many bands that I'm like, you know, some bands that I grew up listening to that are like working day jobs, you know. And
It's mental.
Yeah.
How old you get realizing that is crazy. I remember when I was a kid realizing that like Barney from Napalm Death was working in a fucking just like a factory whenever he would come back from tour. That blew my mind, because I was thought, as a kid, Napalm Death were fucking, do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
They were on English TV.
Legend.
So I didn't comprehend they had jobs, man.
Yeah, it's funny, man, because like one of the things we've realized from the position we're in, right, is like we've all been around the block a couple times in various other bands, right? We've all had record deals before. We've all done the circuits, right? And I think one thing that screams out to me about our current position is like none of us are rich by any means, or like, you know, absolutely hitting it out of the park, but like we all have like, you know, a good situation, and we all work, and we're incorporating the band into it. But this band was started like when everyone was in that kind of phase of life where you've got to pay bills, and this band isn't going to pay bills, right? But there's some purity to that, because what I have found in the past with other bands where it is your full-time job and your only income, right, is that I think you start making compromises in the music in the hope of more commerciality and more sales to be able to pay your bills, right? And so, like, I think there's a little bit of purity that gets lost. So, like, you know, you take the teenager that's just thrashing it in a shed with his mates, right? Like, he isn't worried about commerciality, or like probably doesn't even care what people think, right? Like, they're just making music and like feeling it and like being energized by like this thing that makes them feel good. And then, you know, as you grow up and you see other bands and you want to be like that, right? You know, all this other kind of things enter the music. And I think the thing about us all being employed and this not being able to be full time for us is the fact that, right, we can have it our way, right? We can finance a recording if we need to. We're not worried about like, well, this band has to pay the bills, so like maybe we won't take that right turn there down commerciality street, and maybe we'll go the opposite direction and go more obnoxious, you know what I mean? And I think that it does allow that freedom. So, and that's only something I personally realized in my like older age, you know what I mean? Like having done it a couple of times, like, oh yeah, I think I probably compromised more when I was younger, because I only wanted music to be my full-time job. And I mean, I still want that now, but like I'm willing to compromise a lot less.
Yeah, no, I love that, because the ability to not have to compromise and not have someone breathing down your neck, like, we don't hear a single, you know, you're like, well, fuck you then.
Yeah, 100%.
Compromise Lane, great song title, by the way.
What's that?
Compromise Lane is a great song title.
Yeah.
Compromise Lane. I'm gonna have to go find that street now, isn't it?
I feel like all the most successful bands too, it's like I saw this thing with Rob Zombie, and I think he was on some podcast, and he was just like, he's like, my whole life I've just done what I wanted. And he's like, you know, there was one point when the label came to me and they're like, with the first White Zombie record, like, we don't know if we like the title, it's kind of long. And he's like, well, then kick me off the label, because that's like what the title's
It's not changing.
Yeah, and I just have so much respect for that, because he's like, and then he kind of goes on to say, he's like, you know, I've always done what I wanted, and like stuff came eventually. You know, you have to struggle sometimes, but he's like, I watch other people, like some of my peers, that kind of change their sound, like audience capture, so to speak, like try to make something and he's like, and it never works out, because it's not from your soul, and people can tell that you're faking it, and it's the downward spiral. So
100%.
People can tell for sure. Like, I went to Melvin's had a documentary come out a few years ago, and it was actually right when I was kind of over doing my old band, and I went with my friend Jack. And in this documentary, they played beforehand, and then they showed the documentary. And in this documentary, it had like Josh Homme, like Chris Cornell, Dave Grohl, and everyone. They were just like, all of us are kind of unhappy in our lives. Those guys, Melvins, the only ones that stuck to their core roots. They're still doing it now. And yes, they don't live in mansions. They don't do any of this, but everyone loves and respects the Melvins because they just do what they do. They didn't. Yeah. It's like when the whole grunge hype was happening, when every major label in the world wanted to sign Melvins, they would roll up to a show and they would just play facing their amps and be like, we don't want to get signed. It was like, but after watching that documentary, I literally walked out, and the day after I quit my band because my old band did that, because we got signed to a big label and then we were writing songs. It was just like, this isn't really our band anymore. Like, we were trying to shoehorn in singles, as you were saying just now. Yeah. And it didn't feel real anymore. So yeah, that Melvin's documentary is fucking awesome for that. Like the exact same thing as what you said about Rob Zombie.
That's awesome. I'm gonna have to check that out. I go back to like Steve Jobs too. Like, I've read this thing about Steve Jobs, and he was talking about when they made like the iPod and stuff, and he's like, fuck the customer. He's like, I tell them what they want. And it's like, I feel like the bands, it's like bands that just like, this is the music we make, and like the world can catch up with us, you know? Like,
yeah, there's definitely like, I mean, it's a lot harder to be that now, you know, but it's like, totally. I mean, like you look at like a good example probably is Basement, right? Like, if I recall their story correctly, right, they were a band for a while and they put out a couple records and it just wasn't really happening. And then after they broke up, that record popped, right? Am I right, Ely? Am I misrepresenting this?
What band did you say?
Basement?
Basement. I thought Basement,
yeah, I don't know what happened with them, to be honest.
Yeah, I feel like I might be misrepresenting. I don't want to, you know, but the story I heard was that they were around doing their thing for a while and it just wasn't really going off, right? And then after they broke up, like the record just popped off, right? And like that record rips, man. It's got so many there's so many bangers on it, right? And then
check it out.
Then they got back together and like became bigger than ever, right? And so, you know, it's and the same, actually, interestingly, the same happened with My Chemical Romance. They didn't split up, but I remember when they put their first record out, I was playing in a band called Amen at the time.
You played in Amen?
Yeah, I was drummer in Amen for
I remember
2-3 years.
So I played in a band in the early 2000s and in LA, and Amen was like the big thing here.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I initially moved over to the States. What's that, Lee?
You would have been in them then, early 2000s.
Yeah, I moved over to the States. So Shannon had left and joined Godsmack. And they had a guy that came over and did the UK tour, but I guess they weren't really feeling it. And Casey had come to a show, and an old band that I was in,
Casey
we were on
Chaos.
the road. Yeah. an old band that I was in that was on tour with Placebo. He'd come to the show, and he asked me afterwards. He said, "Will you join my band?" And obviously, Amen was pretty huge in England. I think Amen had more of a moment in England or in the UK than in the US. And I was like, Jesus. And I actually had seen a show. I went to an Amen show like 6-7 months prior, and I'd never seen a more ferocious live band. And I was, man, if I ever make a band that could be this ferocious, I'd be happy. So now the singer's like, approaching me and saying like, "Hey man, do you want to be in my band?" And so I was young at the time. I think I was either 19 or 20. And he was kind of like, "Hey, I'll send you a plane ticket. What's your address?" And like, I mean, it's the early 2000s. So I was kind of like, all right, whatever. Like, yeah, here's my address. And a plane ticket literally did turn up. And I just remember being like, telling my parents, I'm moving to California to join this punk band. And they were like, what? So yeah, it was around that time, like 2000, 2001, probably. And I don't remember where I was originally going with that. Oh, yes. Okay. So the Mike Hem thing, right? So like Rich from Amen was on Mike Hem before like it even kind of happened. He was into it, right?
I love that band, for the record.
Yeah, very, very talented band, man. And I guess like it came out and it didn't make the splash that like people were expecting. And I think they did a re-release like within 6 months and it just went off. So I don't know if it was like I don't know if it was a label change, but like sometimes, man, bands take a second,
Yeah, is that the one that Howard Benson did, 3 Cheers for Sweet Revenge, that you're talking about, or the one before that?
Whatever the first record is, I'm not super knowledgeable on my Chem records.
Okay.
But
Probably the first one.
record, yeah, it was definitely the first one. And I just remember it kind of coming out and hearing it, and then you didn't really hear much about it, and then all of a sudden, like it kind of got some re-release, and it was just like bang, it was huge, I mean, take the Verve. The Verve were around 10 years before they had a hit. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's like
first Guns N' Roses, like Appetite for Destruction came out and no one gave a fuck. And then somehow, like 8 months later, it got re-released or something, and then it went fucking apeshit.
Yeah, it happens, man. So, for us, again, like letting your audience find you, I think, obviously it's got to be the right kind of mixture of like, either you've got to have a viral moment, which we're not really a viral band. We're not like out there doing crazy TikToks. That's just not our style. So these days you have a viral moment, or like, you've got to be in a scene, a hype scene. I don't think we're in a scene either. I think the grunge resurgence that's kind of happening is a little bit more modernized than we're still 90s knuckle dragger grunge.
No, you guys have good songs. You guys have genuinely good songs. Like I've listened to enough of them to know like you guys have some great songs. And if you guys are out there touring and playing, it's
we got a lot of stuff coming up this year, so we're really excited about that. So we're just hoping that people will come and see us, maybe accidentally fall into our show, going to see someone else or whatever, and just be like, oh man, I got to check this band out. We do get a lot of messages of people that have never heard of the band and we're like on a playlist that they just happen to listen to, and then they're like, holy shit, you guys sound like all my favorite bands from back in the day. And then they like follow us. So like, if that keeps happening over time, maybe we'll find that crowd and stuff, but it's still early days for us.
We'll find our own crowd. Because we've had that for a minute, just trying to work out where we sit. Because I feel like we can play with almost any band, but we just don't sit in with a scene of bands. It's kind of odd. So we're just like, fuck it.
We've played with metal bands. We've played with rock and roll bands. We've played with emo bands. I'm just waiting to get a tour with like, the Dirty Heads or something, and playing some ska bands.
There's I feel like there's a desire for like raw rock, like I look at bands like, have you ever heard of Dirty Honey?
Yeah.
I saw them a couple months ago. Just incredible. Like the groove that they have, like it's like rock, but it's danceable. It's like, it was such a great show. And I like, there's so much of that, like, and like if what Lee was saying, you guys crank up your amps and you guys aren't doing any of the bullshit. I mean, that's going to translate.
Yeah, we hope so.
Fucking bad.
So. It's funny actually, you know, when we do get to shows, you know, like, or we send a channel spec list, and it's like, I think if I recall, we're either 16 or 18 channels. And I mean, to be fair, if you're like a front of house engineer, I feel like we make a lot of friends in front of house engineers because we turn up, right? And we've been around the block, so we're fairly proficient at our job. We know how a show goes and how to be. We're all fairly good at playing our instruments. And so for them, right? Like, to have 16 channels of like real instruments and like no tricks, like I think that's kind of a nice thing to mix, you know, a nice break from the kind of like, you know, backing tracks or triggers. And
it's like them going back to being a kid as well. It's like, oh, I remember this. When
I remember this,
bands,
yeah.
Those are good friends to have too.
100%. 100%. Yeah. We just need to be able to afford them.
Yeah.
I've back in my days playing in bands, I had a couple experiences where we crossed wires with the sound man who just made us sound like ass.
It's actually funny. I got a funny Amen story actually about just that topic. So the first ever American tour that I ever did was with Amen, and we were supporting Killing Joke, which are one of my all-time favorite bands as well, right? And so this would have been like, Killing Joke were touring the self-titled record that Dave Grohl played on, right? Yeah. And so we were on that tour, and it was like we were in a van doing this whole thing, and you know, chaos is a little crazy. So we get to Chicago Metro, and we play the show, right? And the monitor guy is not Chaos is not happy with the monitor mix, right? And the monitor guy's like trying to fix it, and basically Chaos has gone over to the monitor desk and tried to start smashing up the dude's monitor desk like mid-show at the Chicago Metro.
Oh my god.
And I remember it being chaos, but like, you know, I think I had my own problems that night, so I was just trying to survive the show. And you know, and also Billy Corgan was there, and he was doing Swan, and he was with I forget the other dude's name that was in Swan, the big dude. But somebody had told me Billy Corgan was there, another dude from Swan, and so like for me, like I was just like, holy shit! Like I wonder if I can meet Billy Corgan. And so, so I was like, you know, we get the show done afterwards. There's like some like tussling on the side of the stage between like local crew and Chaos and our tour manager, and like it's kind of weird, and then some apologies, blah blah blah. Anyway, I did meet Billy Corgan at the merch desk. He came over and asked me what it was like to tour Killing Joke, which I was like, wait, no, I got questions for you. But fast forward to like 2005 or 2006, right? I just started a new band. I was back in England, and I was making my money from guitar teching, tour managing, drum teching, whatever I could get my hands on. And I just got connected with Alexis on Fire. I love that band. I love that band too. Really Dallas good friends. Green. Yeah, really good mates. And so they have a sound guy named Stu. And Stu happened to be the guy at the Chicago Metro doing monitors. And he was like, I know you, and I don't know why. And I was like, I don't know you. And so, you know, the tour goes on, and halfway through, he's like, you ever play Chicago Metro? I was like, yeah. I was like, actually about like 3 or 4 years ago. And he was like, were you in Amen? And I was like, yeah. And he's like, bro, he's like, you were part of the worst night of my life. And then that was basically how that was our friendship narrative, right? Like anytime I see Stu, he'll be like, you were part of the worst night of my life, man.
Damn, that is crazy. Treat everybody well, because you never know where they're going to end up.
Hey, I never treated Stu bad, though. That was just chaos.
No, yeah.
But yeah,
chaos, if you're listening.
Yeah, he don't listen.
Yeah, I remember at the time I played in a band called Jagged Thought Process. We were like a crazy math core thing.
Nice.
And we get like Amen, like that guy was a prick. Like he was like he would shit on people for no reason. We're like, dude, what the hell was that for?
Yeah,
you know?
he was difficult. I'm gonna be polite. Like as a grown up, I've become a lot more polite about previous situations in my life. So you know, he was difficult.
Yeah.
Honestly, I've dealt with worse singers.
Really?
Let's just park that there. Yeah.
Hey, not
Not Lee. Lee. This is what I'm in about
Just
with
the
Lee.
face he pulled was good. He's like,
yeah. Lee's a good one, man. If doesn't matter if Lee gets smashed before a show, which he doesn't always get smashed before a show, but if he is smashed, he's the only person I've ever played with that sings like a bird and plays perfectly, whether he's sober or not.
that's good. That's
a
a real rock star.
Yeah,
it's
he is.
like a scout badge for that.
yeah, for sure.
I was just watching this thing on TikTok with Phil Anselmo talking about Dimebag, and he was this was like probably way too much info, but he's like, I've seen that guy playing with a broken headstock, not miss a note. He's like, I've seen that guy shit in a bucket on stage, not miss a note. Like, what? Wait a minute.
Yeah.
My old band
Yeah,
did a tour with Dragon Force years and years ago, and that was one band that I've never, like Sam, the guitar player, I've never seen anything like it. Like the dude wakes up and it's just 100% annihilated throughout the entire day. As soon as he goes on stage, just effortless. He's still walking around the stage. They place drinks all around the stage. He'll be mid-solo, he'll walk up and he'll put it in his like mouth and then chin it and then put it back and just like effortless. It was like,
wait, is that the geezer? I forget the guitarist name. Is that the geezer that snapped his guitar in half by bouncing it off his knee on stage? And
that's Herman.
That went viral, didn't it?
Yeah, he's still not sensibly behaved, but he's by far the best behaved of that band.
He's a shredder though, isn't he?
Oh,
that Herman dude.
Both him and Sam. Sam is super underrated because it's kind of Herman's band, but Sam is the one where you're just like, dude, how are you doing that, man? Like, guitar over his back. But then he walks off stage and he cannot walk in a straight line. Like, we like went out after. We went to an after party once with them, and he just came walking through a crowd of people, and he had probably 12, 13 beers, bottles just balanced in his hand. And we're like, oh, that's nice. Thanks, Sam. Grabbing a beer. He's like, get off my beers. And
This sounds like someone I know, though, on the screen right now. Because I'm the sensible guy in the band, and I do the driving and the tour manager. So was the drum minute. Lee will always be my co-driver, and he'll DJ the tunes, right? But if it's after a show and there's any rider left in the dressing room, right, he's usually got his long green kind of like poncho, like trench coat thing on, right? Like it's not a trench coat's an inaccurate description, but yeah, it's like an army jacket, an old green army jacket, right? Very nice. And he's got loads of pockets, and each pocket will have 1 or 2 beers in, and so you just hear him like clinking towards the band. You know it's him coming. Because all the pockets and the bottles are just clicking together.
There's a ghost of Christmas past or something.
Yeah. Side note for anyone that doesn't know about England, you can drink in a vehicle in England, right? So as long as you're not the driver, you know. So obviously in America, right, you'd be like, well, why is he putting loads of beers in his pocket for the van ride? Like, illegal. In England, not a problem. So my man here is chinning, you know, several beers in the van on the way to the hotel or the next venue. So yeah, it's pretty funny. So yeah, you describe yourself.
Real class act.
I mean, that's why you get into music, right? Like,
yeah, it's fun.
Yeah.
You can't walk around the office like that.
No, I mean, good.
You could, but
yeah.
No, those guys
actually, my current job is the only job that I've ever worked where there is beers in the office at lunch. So I work from home. And I don't mean because I work from home, I'm chinning beers on my lunch. But when I do go into office, right, if they're hosting something, they're usually putting on beers, you know, in the lunch. And I'm like, is this weird to drink a beer at lunch in the office right now?
I worked at a company for a while in my tech days where there was a bar in the bottom floor, like a Buffalo Wild Wings. And by lunch, like after lunchtime, nothing was happening because everyone was drunk after lunch.
It's a staple.
That's what it is in England.
Yeah, it's a staple.
Yeah.
But it's at the pub, like a couple of lunch pints at the pub. So like you see people suited and booted at the pub, like just having a couple pints on their lunch and then going back to work. And it's like, it's completely normal.
Now I don't feel so bad about it. I just feel like America's uptight.
America is outside about it. When I
Yeah,
moved
it
to
is.
America, every friend of mine was like, "Dude, you're a fucking alcoholic." And I was like, "No, I'm not. Like, this is just how we
By
behave."
American standards,
Yeah,
pussy.
basically, yeah.
Yeah, it's hilarious.
I'll never forget this. I dated this Austrian girl, and we were at a bar in Hollywood. This was years ago, and like last call hits, and it's like 2 a.m. and she looks at me and she's like, "America, land of the free."
Yeah, exactly.
Like 2 a.m. What the fuck is this?
Yeah. It used to be 11 p.m. in the UK, except on the weekend you could apply for a 6 a.m. license, so all the clubs would serve till 6 a.m. But then, right at the tail end of me working in the pub in my youth, they switched to 24-hour licensing so the pubs could decide, which to me was the most insane thing ever, because there used to be people that I'd try and scrape out the pub at like 11, last call, they need to be out by 11:30, and the bars need to be on the door. And you couldn't get rid of these people. So 24-hour licensing, man, they might as well bring a sleeping bag. You know what I mean?
In my
And it is that
utopia,
way.
all bars would be 24 hours.
Yeah, I mean, why not? Have some self-control, you know? It's not I shouldn't be telling you what you should be doing. That's not freedom.
Right. Plus, once I start drinking, I can't stop.
Yeah, for sure. That's hilarious.
And we have terrible public transit here too. Like that's the other thing. If I was the mayor of LA, I would institute like 24-hour buses and much later last call. But you know, that's my fantasy.
That was what I noticed when I moved out here. It was just like you couldn't do it. You couldn't go anywhere, and it was kind of just pre-Uber when I moved to America as well. So it was like having to get a yellow cab just to
it's so expensive.
Go over to the Roxy or something. It was just like Christ.
Yeah.
Yeah, when I was in Amen, we all lived in the same house in Van Nuys on Colbath Avenue.
Nice.
Which
I
is
know
actually-
it well. I know that area.
Yeah, coincidentally owned now by a sweet family. I mean, it was the most punk rock house you could go to. We had insane pies always at the house, right? Like it was like me, Rich Jones, in one room with bunks, and then Matt is now actually the bass player in Rob Zombie. Matt and Scott in the other room, and the garage was the rehearsal room, and like literally pizza boxes everywhere all the time. But we'd have these pies, and these people that would come over were insane. But the house was so punk rock, and then now it's like owned by a nice little family. But I used to have to catch, because I didn't really. All I had was a few friends that I'd worked with that had come to the UK, and I'd like teched for, and so those were the people I'd know. So they'd shoot me a text on my shitty little 7-Eleven pay-as-you-go burner that I had at the time, and be like, "We're going to Hollywood. Do you want to come meet us?" And then I'd have to like figure out the buses from Van Nuys. I used to catch a bus to like the subway, and then I'd get the subway, and then I'd get like I think it was the 212 down La Brea, like to get down to Melrose to meet him at some bar, or you know. Actually, we probably drank in the same bars back in the day, like Good Shoes and Beauty Bar. Did you ever go to any of those bars?
I remember Beauty Bar, but I lived in the Valley. So
Yeah.
I would go to like there's a place called Chimney Sweep in Studio City, and I think it's closed now. Green Frog.
I used to live in Studio City. Where was that?
Off Woodman.
Okay, nice. That was near where I lived. Woodman.
There's another one out there that I used to go to that was
I think
real dive bar. I can't remember what it's called, but yeah.
Where did we used to go in Van Nuys? We used to go to this like German place. I'm trying to remember what it was called. It was like right on Victoria.
Oh no, that's in. I'm thinking of the one in Echo Park, opposite Cha Cha Lounge.
You're in Arizona now?
Yeah, I live in Arizona now. Yeah.
I actually spent some time in Mesa too. I had a good friend who lived there. I grew up in Utah, so a lot of my friends moved south to Arizona.
Yeah, that's where I'm at. I'm in Mesa. So I got no rock and roll friends out here. Actually, that's a lie. I sold an audio interface to a guy on Monday this week that was on OfferUp. And you know, you have the usual exchange, and then he turned up, and he actually looked like somebody that could have been in Lee's old band. I was like, damn! I was like, an actual like rock and roller lives in Mesa, Arizona. So yeah, we exchanged details. So maybe I just gained one rock and roll friend in Mesa.
Man, I totally forgot about Amen. That's crazy that you were in that band. I think
it's crazy that I was in that band.
Yeah, they were the big thing. Roth Robinson produced that record.
Yeah.
It was Larkin on it, right?
They were
Yeah,
in-
Larkin played on all
enormous.
the records. Yeah. Yeah.
I didn't-
Casey's favorite drummer of all time is Shannon Larkin. Like if Casey does anything, like he always wanted Larkin to play on the record. There were no records recorded after I joined. So like the record that was coming out supposedly when I joined was the last one, Death Before Music, which was on Sony. Actually, Darren Malakian signed us. So my tryout for Amen was at Darren Malakian's house, which was the most intense thing as a small small scene musician from the UK that's all of a sudden just been pulled to LA and now is like, hey, you're going to try out at Darren Malakian's house and he's going to film and he's going to let us know what you think, because he basically signed the band. And I did the tryout and he was like, wicked, man. Love it. Want to hit this bong? Dude was like the biggest bong I've ever seen. He was carrying like literally like a fucking 4.5 foot, 5 foot bong around, video camera in one hand, huffing another thing, and I was like, no. Yeah, but that's going to
happen.
Yeah, that period of my life was pretty crazy, man. But when you're a kid, you kind of tend to put up with a lot more, make a lot more concessions and compromises to try and achieve a dream. You know, I don't even know how I survived. I literally survived on change from down the couch. And, like we were assigned to a subsidiary of Sony. So we were allowed to go to the record label and then they'd let us raid the record closet of like releases. So I was basically just stealing from that closet and taking them to Amoeba and like living off the proceeds of that. I would literally eat 7-Eleven hot dogs every day.
That's smart.
So, I haven't grown a third arm or a third leg or any kind of second heads after eating that many hot dogs, but I'm still here.
You guys are both veterans.
Yeah.
Old. Sucks.
Been around the block. He just looks younger than me.
I can relate.
Yeah.
Do you guys have any shows booked this year?
Yeah, we go to England in a couple of weeks. We do Download Festival and we're doing some shows of Atreyu.
Nice.
And then we come home from Europe and then we have another tour that we're going straight back out there for the month after that we haven't announced yet, that we should be announcing in the next couple of days. And then out here we have Louder Than Life Festival. Then we have Aftershock Festival.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, there's
around those as well.
What would you say, mate?
I said we'll be doing some shows around those as well.
Yeah.
They're not like planned yet, but we're going to be like, we're not just going to do Aftershock and Louder Than Life. We'll probably try and fit some satellite shows around them and that,
Are you guys playing LA anytime soon?
I would hope that for Aftershock, one of the satellite shows, like we haven't played in LA for a while. I'm going to be honest with you, LA is always tough to play. It's a tough crowd. You know what I mean? It's kind of like playing in London sometimes can be tough, right? Like, because everything goes through there, And so, for me, it all depends on where we get a show in LA. If we're playing a show on the east side, I'm stoked, right? Like, if we're playing a show on the west side, I probably don't want to play it.
Yeah, it's so true. I noticed this. Like, I'd go to shows at like the Whiskey, and everyone in the crowd is in a band. So everyone's like, And
brutal.
I grew up in Utah, where like there was a big hardcore scene. There's like it was rare we got shows, so people were like shows were huge. People just went off, So it's like
And those are always the best places to go when you're on tour. Like LA shows, you as a touring band, you just kind of dread, to be honest. Especially like me and my old band, we played the Whiskey a few times. Like I remember one time they made us like go outside to queue for our own show. Well, the doors aren't open yet. We're like, but we've just sound checked and we're headlining. Like, what's going on? Yeah, and then you would go up and you'd ask like your tech, is there a chance we can get some beers? And then you'd be like, oh, I bet they'll come back with a 6-pack. And they literally would come back, here's your 6-pack. And it's like, can we have some water? And you have to like just beg for shit all the time.
Actually, like the one show I would play on the west side is the Roxy. I've always had a great time at the Roxy. That's a proper venue, right? We actually played with Alien Weaponry at the Roxy about 2-3 years ago. It was an awesome show. Usually, I feel like we're in the Troubadour, though, right? Like that's usually,
That's where I know Amen from, because when I was in a band back then, they'd have like these Monday nights for local bands, and Amen played sometimes, but they were already beyond that, obviously. So.
Yeah.
Troubadour is one of my favorite venues. For
Legendary
sure.
spot, man. Legendary
Yeah.
spot.
Yeah,
Elton John.
our first ever show as this band was at the Troubadour.
Awesome.
We played there again.
We played last year.
Was
Yeah,
that
about,
last year? That was last year,
yeah,
right?
yeah. About 10 months ago, we played with the Dirty Nil there, and that was also another ripping show. That was a great show as well.
That was a good show.
Yeah,
There's some
you always
good-
get. Sorry, go ahead. Yeah, you always get looked after at the Troubadour, man. They always take good care of you. The security, it's the same geezer has been for decades, and he's great, and he's really good at remembering faces. So like when we turn up there, he's like, I remember you guys, and like they're just cool people, man. Cool promoter, cool people, cool bar staff. Love it there.
Yeah, you got to treat those people well because they could end up like you were saying in that story about the Alexis on Fire.
Yeah. I mean, as a general rule of thumb, like I feel like one of the things I saw early on as a kid was people being like rock star bullshit around bands, right? Around people, and like we've just never been that way. You know what I mean? Like I think we have a very humble sort of story as a band, and I think as individuals we're all pretty respectful. So we've never had to worry about that. But I've seen it. I mean, I've done Warped Tour a few times, and you know they always slap up the stuff, the Henry Rollins quote on the side of the stage. You know, the crew will be here way before you setting up your gear, and they'll be leaving way after. Right? You should get, they should get your salary, and you should get theirs. Right? Like it's kind of what the quote is. You know, and so like I back that so hard. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I did my stint as a sound guy as a kid too, so I dealt with the other side. I was like, fuck these people.
Yeah. But what I will say is, in the modern generation of viral memes, the sound guy band like meme that goes around now, where there's always a guy doing like, all right, kick drum, like and then someone's going like on the kick drum, like no, just single hits, mate, just single hits, or like I don't know if you saw the one that was going around of the British sound engineer doing local sound engineer in England does Slipknot for the first time. All right, mate. Yeah. All right, mate. What's that? Can somebody get a member of the bar staff to get that beer kick off stage, please? Oh, what do you mean it's with the band? Oh, you hit that. Oh, okay. Weird. Like, the dude's just like, it's the best skit. So I do love that rub. I do love that intersection of, like there's so many good band meme pages around at the minute where like they're capitalizing on all this shit and pain that we've all been through.
Yeah.
I think tomorrow they're going to have a similar thing. Slipknot are playing at fucking Pappy and Harriet's tomorrow.
I saw that. Yeah.
350 people cap.
So we'll know tomorrow if Eloy is the guy.
He's the drummer.
Yeah, tomorrow's his first. Well, tomorrow's the first drummer.
It's not been confirmed though that he's.
So
we're all assuming.
Tomorrow they announce it tomorrow on stage. Apparently.
I just watched this thing from Rockfeed, and some people on Reddit, because there's a website for the show they're doing, and they're giving all the money. By the way, cheers to them. They're giving all the money to like a animal shelter.
Nice.
Love it.
Like all the proceeds of the show. But some Redditor went through the site and found like pictures of the band in the file structure, and there's one called Eloy.jpg.
Yeah.
And so they're like, it's totally him.
Yeah. We all knew it was going to be him. It had to be.
Straight away, I was like, the guy's like,
there's literally no other reason to quit Sepultura right before.
Right.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
That's the only reason. Yeah.
Yeah. So
I'm just wondering what his mask is going to be.
Yeah.
So I'm interested in that. The other thing they gave away was they showed like Slipknot rehearsals, and then they showed a broken ProMark stick, and it was like Eloy's.
I saw that. It was,
so I mean, it's pretty done deal, but there's still like a little shadow of doubt in there. So you might are we about to get punked? Maybe they called up Eloy and said, listen, we need one of your drumsticks, and we want you to go along with the hype. Like, don't dispel it. But really,
I want to believe that, but I'm like, does Slipknot really have time to do an elaborate hoax like that?
No.
Well, it was also like even seeing. I mean, Alex, the bass player, who I've known for a long time, like he's been posting videos of Eloy for fucking years. Do you know what I mean? Like it is so obvious it was going to be him.
Yeah.
Now on the debate of like trying to blag if I can get in tomorrow, of like I don't want to be that guy, but there's like imagine seeing them in a venue that small. Like it's
The
barely
tickets
a venue.
The tickets are $9 too.
Yeah, they've all gone though, haven't they?
Of course, they were gone in 30 seconds. I'm sure.
And I got real lucky last week. I went to go and see Green Day do all of Dookie and American Idiot. And they did Echoplex last week. So that'll really round up my week. If I can see Green Day and then Slipknot in tiny venues, that'd be fucking awesome.
Dookie is
That
like
would
one
be
of my
sick.
all-time favorite albums.
Yeah.
Me.
My
Insane.
go on. My LA small gig story both happened at the Troubadour. So the first one was back in 2011. Prince was still alive. He was doing like 15 sold out nights at the Staples Center, and he was basically like, fuck this, I need to play a small proper gig. So I guess he did 3 nights, or should I say 3 days and nights at the Troubadour, matinee shows. Each show was 3 hours long. So he's playing 6 hours a day, right? For 3 nights. And I got into one of those shows and it was insane. Didn't play a single, it was literally all jam stuff. They were jamming, just fucking shredding. I'm like, I get it. Like he needed to get this out of him, right? So that was insane to be there. What's that?
He did that at the Electric Ballroom too. He did like 3-day shows and people just queuing around the block trying to get in.
Yeah, trying to get in. And then the last time was probably 2017 or 18. I think it was 2018 actually. Pumpkins had just kind of done the reform, and Chamberlain and James was back, and our mate Jack is playing bass for him. And I got a hit up from one of my friends. He was like, bro, it's like my management company manages Smashing Pumpkins. I know they're your favorite band. He's like, do you want to come to this show at the Troubadour and watch their first show back together? And I was like, are you fucking having me off right now? So I got front row balcony seat for management. Man. They only let 100 people in. The Troubadour was like 450. I think it was like 100 or 150 people they let in. So there was so much space for everyone. You did have to turn in your cell phone. But it was amazing, man. And they played all the bangers. They were so tight. And it was just like, to be able to see Pumpkins in that setting was definitely a bucket list item for me. So
that's one of the plus sides of LA is shows like that.
100%. Yeah, I absolutely agree.
Show last week was just, it's so crazy because they just blasted through Dookie so fast, but just like, it was just like a real band. Do you know what I mean? There was no like stadium bullshit. It was just like watching, they looked the same. Like Billy looks exactly the same. They used the same instruments as what they use. He had the same guitar, Mike had the same bass, and they just blitzed through song after song, no gaps, nothing. It was just like, fucking hell. But it was sounded exactly the same.
They get a lot of shit for their politics, but they're one of my favorite bands for sure.
Yeah, they did that. They did a couple of new songs and then did American Idiot in its entirety. I was not really in by American Idiot. I like some of it.
Yeah.
I was early. I just like Dookie and Insomniac and
even their indie stuff before that is really good too.
All the Kaplunk stuff was amazing.
Yep.
So yeah,
well, guys, there's even bangers on Nimrod too as well. Like,
and that was the thing. By the time Nimrod came out, you were like, Green Day. But listening back to Nimrod now,
right, it's just bang.
Every song is
great.
Yeah.
There's so many great bands from that era, so it's cool that you guys are kind of paying homage to that a little bit.
Yeah,
you know?
if there's ever a day that we got on like a fucking Pumpkins bill, Foo Fighters bill, like Alice in Chains, Green Day, like any of the, like, I mean, just imagine being a kid and then someday in your future, like being able to play on a bill, not even a bill, play on a show with those guys, right? Like open a show or whatever, like just be phenomenal. And the best part is a lot of those bands actually do really care about like newer bands as well. You know what I mean? Like Green Day definitely do. Billy is actually, pretty sort of tight with a band I know from Warsaw called Lovebreakers, and that, just seeing him like being out on the road and posting pictures with them, and I'm just kind of like, that's fucking crazy, man. Like he still gets involved in the grassroots. He actually did a thing on, is either Twitter or Instagram maybe a year or 2. He's like cleaning out some old stuff. I've got this old drum kit that I used to use for this, and this. He's like, meet me on the corner, blah, blah, blah. At this time, first person there gets a kit. I'm going to be down there on the corner with it. He's like, if you don't get the kit, I'll take photos with you. And I'm just like, okay. Like, how are you going to manage that, right? Like most people are like, I need security and I need like, like, He don't give a shit. I just love that, man. I love that attitude. Grohl's the same. Dave Grohl's the same. Just a salt of the earth geezer, you know. So
It's beautiful.
I hate to be the party pooper.
I was going to say I could talk to you guys all day, but we should probably shut this down.
I gotta go back to work.
The album comes out May 31st, right?
Yeah,
May 31st on Spine Farm Records.
The new singles, You Don't Care. It's a fucking fantastic song. Very Pumpkin-esque, as we discussed. Man, thank you guys so much for taking the time. I really enjoyed talking with you. I hope to catch you out on the road, and please come back and talk to me again when you got some.
Yeah, man. Let's make this happen again, and we'll be playing a show in LA. So hit us up, man. Like let's
definitely
let's connect.
Love it, man. Thank you guys so much. Everybody, watch out for the album, the 31st, and thank you guys again so much.
Anytime.
Take care, Dustin.
See ya.
We're out of here.
Bye.